Hello everybody and welcome back. So we're back in our sort of Northern Lordaeron area, the Northeron area, and so I just want to give you a little pass of some of the work that I've done, some very quick work that I've done since the last recording. I tried not to do too much, but I laid down some textures and I was testing around what I wanted. So I've come to the conclusion that I want mountains to be, this color. We'll have the ice. And I've, developed the lake, the river connection that's over there as well. That's been taken care of, as well as just some minor, tweaks around the mountains. This is all just temporary. It's really when you start going at every specific region that you should do everything perfectly. At least that's the way I do it. So for the meantime, I just lay things down. Now, one of the things that I knew that I wanted is I wanted a shot like this, where there, of course, there's going to be more details around here, and maybe a more interesting, like rolling hills or whatever. But I wanted a shot of what'll be like the river, the mountains. I really wanted the idea of this area was almost like a Switzerland looking vibe to it. That's what this northern part of Lordaeron would look like. And here, like I said, I wanted a settlement with. I know I didn't want to make a big castle, but I still wanted like a military building, just because in every region there's sort of like a capital of sorts, right? So I didn't want this to be a huge capital, but I wanted it to be somewhat like this, and I also wanted to nestle it in the mountain with just like some very sparse buildings. So this is really what probably the settlement is going to look like. I might have like some tents indicating difference, and there might be like a forest here. I want to break this up some way, but that's what we've done this time around. So the mountains here, I've sort of created a couple of nooks for things that you might want to do. So, when you enter the area through that, I think the snow line, or where the snow starts, will be somewhere from here, this point on forward, which means that this part of the mountain is probably going to be that as well, and it's going to come in, and the snow is probably going to cap all of this and this large area here. I'm unsure as to what I'm doing here. In the past version, what I had was it had been a crashed citadel, undead citadel, like the ones that you have in Northrend. It might be that, it might not be that, it might be a cave of some sorts, or a crypt of some sorts. Then we have some areas, plateau areas here around the mountains that will be a little bit different, but these won't be snowed, so we'll have like regular pine trees dotting that area, and that's what all of this is going to be. I still haven't decided what the pine trees are going to be on the green side. I have to do some tests, but I'm not going to be recording that because it requires me jumping back and forth between areas, flying around, detecting trees, thinking, what would be the best look for it. Okay, so what I want to do today is I want to do a little bit of more sort of like rough texturing work, just because I feel that that's what's needed right now. So this has only two textures, including this brown texture and then the snow. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with the snow. Again, this is just tentative snow. I'm not sure if I'll end up using this snow everywhere. But for the time being, I think it's okay. So we'll go to 5, and we know that we want snow here. Maybe we're going to use something a little bit bigger than... No, the hardness is fine. Maybe we want something like this. Yeah. Okay, this is going to be quicker. So we know that we want snow here. And that this is going to go up this path right there. And we know you just have to like give yourself a general outline of what it is, or at least this is the way that I'm doing it. It's you sort of just figure out exactly what the footprint of the area should be, and then you'll do like detail work. Now bear in mind you don't have to be like too exact. It will help you to throw up these elevation markers, because they tell you exactly like what from a bird's eye view seemed like it was flat area. Here, you see, it actually is not. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna trim that off. Right? See here as well. Trim that down. And so now we have a more realistic line of what it is that we're doing. So I'm going to do the same thing here. We're just going to take this, round off these areas here, like so. Yeah, that's looking fine. This one can come a little bit down along that line. And yeah, I mean, it could actually have the snow. Sometimes you have to like look at things in a lot of like different angles, because they'll show you that actually some areas, although they're slightly more elevated because of the way that the terrain is, it works. So here is sort of like this odd sloping that's going on. And remember, it's snow, so it's going to bank up on the sides as well. At least that's how snow works where I live. All right. Okay, so we have that. We have the interior. We know that we're not going to do snow down there. Let's just finish filling that up so that we have that defined. Now, will there be roads? I don't know. Honestly, I feel that if I want this to have this sort of like northern alpine feel to it, that there shouldn't be too many roads. These should be slopes and places that, yeah, like are meant for characters to walk, but not meant for characters to have like roads. Nobody would bother to put roads in these areas, is what I mean. And that's why this area either has to be some sort of cave or some sort of structure that is not relevant to humans. And you know, having said that, that's also why I think perhaps there might not be any roads over here, because there might not be any need for roads. There might be perhaps some sort of outpost around here with like a dirt road, but other than that, I really don't see the purpose of working on that that way. Okay. All right. So, what else? What else am I gonna do? Well, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work a little bit of the snow on top of the mountains, and once I'm doing that, we'll figure out what else to do. Okay. So I just finished doing this. It's very rough. I did just some work. I'm probably going to come back and, not probably, I will definitely come back and refine some of that stuff. But for the time being, I think that we're going to go ahead and we are going to, I think, pretty much replace this texture. We're going to go into swap. Yeah, we're going to go swap that texture with this rock texture. And it's a matter of just pressing the combinations of keys. In this case, it's the left shift on my keyboard and the left mouse button. And so wherever it finds that particular texture, it's going to go ahead and replace it in the particular ADT box. So let me see if I can help you out there. You see how we have each one of these block lines. I'm going to leave those on because those help you determine whether or not you've gotten textures replaced in the entire area or not. So this replaces per chunk as opposed to an entire ADT, which would be the entire file. Right, and if we come across other texture issues, we'll get to them eventually. Like when we're adding roads, or if we're trying to retexture something or make some sort of variation. If we have any trouble with the textures, we'll have to see what we do about that. But for the time being, it looks like we're okay. Some of these areas, like you're seeing right now, are actually not probably going to be visible from any player viewing angle, which is why the old world in WoW looked the way that it looked. It really just had to do with that type of logic. You're sort of going like, oh, okay, I see. So you're just sort of like hiding certain details from us, which is fine. Sometimes that's the way that you can get away with making some really interesting looking scenarios, is just by limiting or understanding where your player is coming from and how many options you're going to give them for certain like viewing angles on things. So, you know, like when you're designing a city, like how do you want a city to look when it's being approached? Some of the cities that I like have designed don't have that in mind. I just sort of fit them where they could. Now I'm more interested in figuring out how something looks while approaching it. So I'm very, very aware of, you know, the certain points. Like if I put this a town here, like that's how I want it to look on the elevation. Or if I'm down here on the floor, I definitely want the mountains to seem a certain way. And that'll determine like if I'll make any changes to the terrain itself. But yeah, okay, so now we have 1 second. So now we have the mountains with the new sort of rock texture that I wanted. We're gonna see if that's what we end up sticking with for this. I mean, it very well could be, because I know that I'm gonna put some of these trees up there anyways to do sort of like the transition to the trees that I might have here. So that might be fine. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this as like the texture for the ground, so we're probably gonna repaint here up to a certain degree what that's gonna look like, so I'm not gonna bother with that too much. Yeah, okay, we have the grass, which we might as well go ahead and go to the grass. Oh, am I not doing this correctly? Okay, so it turns out that the reason why that was not sort of like changing was because I painted. I painted with the texture on them. So the texture was actually in each chunk, and obviously it couldn't replace another. Like, you wouldn't get a duplicate texture, is what I mean. So I had to just go in there and then manually paint the details in, which is fine. All right, so I think that that's the best thing that we're gonna do in terms of, like, determining, I guess, the amount of snow areas that we want. And then, just take these areas here. Maybe just let's get a little assist here. Yeah, and yeah, we'll just determine that area is going to be green, and we're going to say that this area is going to be green as well. We might need to flatten it out a little bit or make an incline. But yeah, so that's going to be that way. There's going to be some access to those areas from down here, don't worry. And I think that's pretty much it. Do we want to take a look at, like, what some of these areas would look if they were like, nah, you know what? I'll leave that for another video. So this has been the texturing of the mountains, and we'll come back with more on this mod. So until then, everybody, bye-bye.